massive, warm Ipswich welcome as we welcome him to the room, Curtis Matt.
So, anyone that's ever talked to me will know that my passion lies in property, whether it be HMOs or construction. Can talk about it all day long, so happy to talk about that. But there's a reason why I'm in property. There's probably a few reasons, but one of the big reasons is what I'm about to talk to you tonight. So I want to try and keep it quite interactive, so if you've got any questions, let's talk. Don't let me just blabber on up here, because I will just go on a bit of a tangent, so butt in if you need to, and let's chat about it. But basically, there is only one major endeavour left in polar exploration, one last world first to be claimed, one significant place on the planet mankind has yet to reach, and like Houston said earlier, it's the pole of inaccessibility. This is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things to collect vital information. So the reason we're going there is to gather scientific data. I'm no scientist by any stretch of imagination. I'm just a normal guy, but I've been trained vigorously for the past 4 years to take these simple tests. It's testing the depth of the sea ice, it's testing the temperature, how it forms when it collides together, it ridges and it rafts, and then it's very, very simple stuff that we're taking. But when we bring it back to the scientists, they're the guys that can do the magic. They're the guys that can understand why it's depleting so fast, and that's the main reason we're going there. Clearly it says it is the biggest, the boldest, the bravest and the most expedition of our time. It really is. You know, the world's heating up. The poles are our air conditioning unit. Without them, we're going to get pretty hot. So it's very important that we find out why they're depleting so fast to keep us cool, basically. I don't know why it's going backwards for. Does anyone recognise that guy there, bottom right hand corner?
Shackleton.
Correct, Sir Ernest Shackleton, famous explorer at the turn of the last century, very famous. I probably can't do him justice with the amount of time I've got, but basically he was going to go to the pole of inaccessibility, the northern pole of inaccessibility, but literally a few weeks before he was about to go, didn't get the funding, ended up going south, and that's what we know him for, going south. Getting lost for a couple of years, done an amazing feat of strength and endurance to get back. But if you want to talk about him a bit more, we'll talk about him a bit later. But this is the unfulfilled ambition of his. He was going to go north, didn't end up going south, and now hopefully we can carry on and take over where he wanted to go. The quest, this is in a deep place in the Arctic where mankind has yet to reach. So we're going to go into it a bit in a minute, but basically the pole of inaccessibility is one of the 4 northern poles, and it is the centre of the Arctic Ocean. It's 800 miles from land, furthest point from land, and no man's ever been there before. So it will be a world first, but like I say, along the way where we're taking the scientific data, that's where the magic happens. So that's the real reason why we're doing it. The objective is to get to that pole. That's our main objective, is to get there, but it's along the way taking the scientific data is what's really crucial, because we work alongside NASA scientists. They're sending satellites over. They can see from a great distance what's going on. It shrinks, it contracts, but they don't actually know what's going on the floor because of the snow on top of the ice. It's just reflecting off, and they don't know what's going on down there. So they're sending us in to find out what's going on, and then we can relay back to them and hopefully try and work out what's going on up there. Purpose is a massive physical, mental endeavour. It absolutely is. Can you imagine just looking at the guy in front of you, just vast whiteness, just nodding, donkey syndrome. It's completely mind-numbing as well as leg-numbing. It's just cold. It's incredibly. You have to be quite strong-willed to do this sort of thing. I'm not saying I completely am strong-willed, but I've been trained quite comprehensively over the past 4 years to do this, and I'm quite confident in my abilities to do it. But yeah, it really is a test of endurance for sure. The journey, let's talk about the journey. So we're going end of February next year, 2019. It is the midst of the winter, it is the coldest time. We have to go at the coldest time because that's when the sea ice is at its thickest and the most rigid. So we go when it's really blooming cold. It's going to last for 80 days. It's split into 4 legs. So it's over 800 miles, roughly each leg is 200 miles, and we'll go into that a bit more, but basically that's what the journey is. It is exactly that, across one of the most inhospitable environments of the planet. We're going to see polar bears, we're going to see ice cracking, we're going to see plummeting temperatures up to minus 50, 60. It's going to be quite horrendous out there, so glad that I've got the best team behind me and best intuition. Crossing treacherous sea ice, service point from land up to the ocean, we talked about that. Whole of accessibility, exposure to risk from melting ice, freezing temperatures and hungry polar bears. They really are hungry, because when we go, the girls, they're quite clever, they'll have their cubs, they'll hide away, they'll hibernate. The boys are silly, they will carry on walking around hungry, tired and angry. So we've been very trained in how polar bears behave, so we scare them off. Shooting them is a very, very, very last thing you'll ever do. We've learned just basically to scare them. Get grouped together, make yourself a little bit bigger, make lots of noise, scare them away, and hopefully that's that. Any questions? I'm going to keep rambling on.
How big is the team?
How big is the team?
Yeah.
There's 27 in the team, but on each leg there'll be 8.
It's interesting actually, because earlier this year I watched a film called Before the Flood.
Yep.
And it's not about the one in Noah's time, it's about the one to come. And we're at a tipping point. So all these scientists, so if you can watch the film, it was made over 2 years by National Geographic.
Yeah.
And it looks into while the ice is melting and the Gulf Stream comes up and heats us up.
Yeah.
And that's a tipping point where it could get colder. So everywhere's going to get hotter. Places are going to get colder.
Absolutely.
And I really want to get older developers and ask why we're not doing more for like solar heating.
Yeah. PowerPoint for your cars should be
water.
shouldn't it?
Why aren't we using water that we're showering and bathing for flushing our toilets? And things like that.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more that we could be doing.
Good. So let's talk about the route. I talked to you earlier about the fact that it's 800 miles. It's 800 miles from base camp, which is here in Resolute Bay, very northern parts of Canada. And then Team 1, I'll do a point on this. Oh yeah. So Team 1, from there to there, that's where, I don't know if you've seen on films or programs, you've got the boulder fields. That's where the water meets the shore, where it's frozen, it creates these huge boulders. So I said earlier that we've got to be doing 200 miles. We're not going to be doing 200 miles in that lake. We'll be lucky to do a few miles a day. It is literally the worst possible place to be. That's where the polar bears are. That's where the sea ice is cracking. That's where it's the coldest. It's actually my favourite. So I hope that I end up being on that one. But then once the first team get through the boulder fields and do as much as they can, Team 2, from there to there, will go through the magnetic pole. Did any of you guys know that there's 4 poles up north? Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you anyway. So over here in Greenland, there is the geomagnetic North Pole. That's where the Aurora Borealis is. The Northern Lights makes like a donut shape. That's where they are. You'll see them in the sky. That's where they sort of originate from. The Earth's on sort of an 11-degree tilt. Imagine it's on an 11-degree tilt, and you put like a rod all the way through. Where the rod comes through, that's roughly where that would be. Then you've got the geographical North Pole. That's where all the lines of longitude meet. On the map, the northern lines that go up, that's where they'll all meet. The magnetic pole, just briefly talked about, that's where our compasses point north, and that's actually always moving. It's on an 11-hour elliptical loop, so if you get to the place you should be and it's not there within 11 hours, it'll come back round. But not only is it moving in an elliptical loop, it's also moving in a direction. At the moment, it's steaming towards Russia, so in the next sort of decade or so, the Russians will take ownership of it probably. But no one's actually been through it since 2002. So that'll be another world first. Once we get into where we know it should be, we get to redefine where all the magnets should be pointing basically. So that'd be quite exciting. Then Team 3 will take over and do as much as they can, because by this time it'll be warming up. Team 4 are going to have to be sprinting because it's going to be getting quite wet and could be swimming. So that's the legs. Any questions about the legs?
Yeah, so you got 8 people on each leg.
Yep.
So you're at the base camp.
Yep.
The first lot do the first leg.
Yep.
And then you hand it over like the baton to the next.
That's correct.
Lot. So that when you hand from the baton from the first leg to the second leg,
Yeah.
where do the second leg start from? Do they get helicoptered in, or do
They get airlifted in.
Okay.
Yeah. They get airlifted in. The first team get airlifted out,
Right.
and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And obviously, team 4, they're the guys that will, taking the glory, if you like. They're the guys that will be the first people there. Yeah, that's basically our trip. Go ahead.
When are you going, and how did you get onto this?
End of February next year is the planned trip. And how did I get onto this? Very good question. About 4 years ago, I overheard a conversation by a guy that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but Jim McNeil, he's the brains behind all this. He's been doing this 34 years now, and he's been dreaming of doing this since 2001. We'll go into that a bit, but basically I overheard him talking. He's talking about it to someone else. 10 minutes went by and he finished the conversation. I was just going to him, I was just like, how on earth do I get involved in this? Because this is just phenomenal. And like a dog chasing a ball, I was just, all over it from day one. It didn't mean I got any special treatments because there's selecting weekends that you've got to go through and all sorts of training camps and all sorts. So I still do all that rigorous process, but that was just my way. And I overheard a conversation. I was just fixated. I had to crack on. And 4 years later, here I am. So that's how I got involved. What else have we got? So these are some of the scientific partners. I'm not going to go through them all because I'm very aware of our time, but this is how I explained earlier that we work alongside NASA, the guys in America, and the National Snow and Ice Data Centre. They're the NASA scientists, if you like, and all the other scientists from around the world are the guys that are the magic behind it. We take them the very simple data and they transform it into what can be used. It's not very often that you get to see, Great Britain, USA, Norway, Russia and China working together, but we absolutely are. We work alongside these guys to make this happen. The project itself, briefly said earlier, Jim McNeil, I'm actually going to talk about it in the next slide. He founded this in 2001, and since then he's trained over 350 people to be just like myself, and he's done 7 major expeditions now to different various parts of the Arctic. And he trains just normal, everyday people. I'm no different to anyone else, completely normal. He trained me up to go from normal person to slightly better normal person. I'm still exactly the same, it's just I've got that knowledge now of how to traverse the pole safely and come home. So this really is for anyone. It's boys, girls, big people, small people. There's no ice warrior, cardboard cutout person. It is literally for everyone. On the team, there's teachers, builders, accountants. There's a professional poker player, there's actresses. It's like completely, there's no 2 people the same other than just the first 4 trying to do something better. So that's what I quite love about it. So Jim McNeil, he's probably written this. He doesn't really like to blow his own trumpet. That's why he started off with Explorer, Ordinary Chap. He is in regards to that anyone can talk to him. He doesn't look down on anyone, he's completely humble, the most humble person I've ever met, but he's really not ordinary. Some of the things he's done, this list is very tiny as to what this guy's achieved in his life. But just so you got some idea of what he's done in the Arctic, he is one of the most experienced and respected explorers of our time. He's a safety consultant to many different things. Here's some of them. He's done Frozen Planet, Human Planet, Captain America, Last Explorers. I'm sure some of you, all of you have heard of those things. He's the guy behind the scenes that keeps everyone safe. Comes to like Reynold Fiennes doing his stuff. He's the face fit, he does some great things, but then in the background, he'd be like, Jim, I need your help, what can I do here? And he's that guy, he's always been that guy. So, very knowledgeable guy. Been there for 34 years. I completely have utter faith in him. I'm not saying he knows everything, he's not infallible like anyone else, but he knows so much about this. He lives and breathes Arctic exploration. He's completely besotted with trying to save the species, if you like, because at the end of the day, the planet will carry on, whether we're here or not. It's the species that may die out, i.e. us. So he's completely besotted with trying to keep us here, dedicate his life to it. We could talk about Jim for hours, but there's something, we do a thing at the moment called interviewing icons, and one of our icons was David Attenborough. We'll talk about that a bit later, but yeah, some of the people that he gets to hang about with is quite phenomenal. Sponsorship. these things cost money, obviously, and this one costs a lot of money. And wherever I go, there's a TV camera. So it's being made into a documentary film series, through training, through the expedition itself. There's a camera crew that follow us. When we come back, then it goes out to the schools, universities, dinners. The information gets pushed out, so this goes on for like many years, across many different platforms: internet, TV, radio, magazines, you name it. Any sort of media out there is completely covered by everyone. There you go. From live events, traditional PR, says it all there, and a chance to be positive. Associated with positive topical value is important to everyone. It really is. You know, without the poles, like I said, we're going to get pretty warm, so we absolutely need them. And anyone involved with us gets to embark in the kudos that's surrounded about with being involved with a last world first, which everyone loves, which the PR loves, but obviously the fact that we're actually doing something, generally doing something fantastic to try and help us out. It's a chance to be with a historical world first in exploration and research. Like I blurted on earlier, it really is. It's a world first. The science we're going to be finding out is absolutely necessary to understand why it's depleted so fast. Valuable education. Because no one's ever been there, we don't actually know what we're going to find. So what we find is going to be completely new education to us, and that's where we bring it back and we'll just tell the world what we've done and try and educate people. Vital scientific discovery, extreme human endurance. I mean, we're going to be burning 8,000 calories a day. You can't eat that much, so we're going to be calorie deficient just by doing our stuff. You know, 14 hours of skiing every day is some human endurance. So that's one thing, I suppose, as an ice warrior you've got to learn. Although you can start being completely normal, you have to obviously train your body, train your mind to get into that state of mind and get your body in that state. So an innovative technology, the tech that we use is like some of the drones that we're going to take with us, they're using fuel cells, because a normal battery out there lasts seconds. You know, to get your phone out, take a selfie, it's going to die because it's just so cold. And like say the fuel cells we're going to be using and things like that, it's just completely new tech. No one's really used it before. It's been tested, but it's completely new stuff that really works. It lasts hours, so it's really great stuff. And it really is high quality entertainment. When we get back, it's going to be, like I say, a film, and you're going to want to watch this over and over again. Find out what we learn, the highs, the lows. You know, 8 people living and breathing with each other. It's going to be some highs and lows for sure. Won't go through these, but I suppose you can see who this guy is. So Ranulph Fiennes, actually one of our patrons. Chris Bonington and Michael Payne, again, great supporters of ours. Anyone listened to Ranulph Fiennes speak before? What do you think of him?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, done a big
Where did you see him?
One of the legacy training events.
Yeah. Done some,
Very funny.
he's
Yeah,
done
it's
some
quite
stuff
funny.
in his time, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got some stories.
He
Sure.
certainly has. He
He's quite a comedian, actually.
doesn't care like who he's in front of and
No,
what he
he
says.
really
It's-
doesn't.
Yeah, so I quite respect him for that. But like I say, he's a patron of ours, and truly is behind what we're doing. Let's read his actually. So during my first conversation with Jim, I was impressed by his quiet confidence and solid enthusiasm. Since then, I've come to learn the determination, dexterity, skills and knowledge of Jim and his crew behind the project, and I'm delighted to be associated with them. Ice Warrior has all potential of a truly great British first, slightly mass and eccentric in conception, through and precise in planning, and likely to prove generous and resolved in execution. Spoken like a true gentleman. This is going to be quite difficult to see, but I'm after sponsorship, not going to fluff or BSU. This thing costs money, and it's great for any business involved, because like I said to you earlier, anywhere I go, I'm in front of a camera. Any magazine that I talk to can't wait to do an article about me. Local newspapers, national newspapers. I mean, YPN next month. You know, wherever I go, they just can't wait to be part of it. And there's multiple ways that people can get in. We'll have a chat afterwards if you want to see it. But there's ice balls, different conferences we're at, training. You can actually go to some of the base camps we talked about earlier, Resolute Bay. Flags, banners, video content photography and patches. Patches has probably been the best thing, well, the thing that people like the most, because on my attire I have like credit card size patches, if you like, and to have your company logo on it and then be on the nightly news for a few £100 is great return, really, and that's kind of what's been sort of selling the most. People are like, really, I want a piece of that. All the flags, they're like their flag. I'll go out on the ice, take a picture of it, and they'll have full photographic rights afterwards to use it in their PR or whatever they want to do. So they're kind of like the low end stuff. I think they start about £300 up to, you know, you've got like the visits to Resolute Bay, you're talking like tens of thousands, but it's catered for anyone from as low as, you know, £300 to small business to big companies that want to send one of their people out. I mean, like that last plane we talked about earlier, well, that last plane would be the first lot of people where no one's ever been before. You could put one of your guys on there if you're that big a company and was able to do that. So there's so many different ways that people can get involved, and quite bespoke ways as well. We don't have to sort of stick to what I'm talking about here. These are the things that I can take care of, but if you wanted to get involved a lot more, I could definitely set up that meeting with Jim and try and sort out some sort of bespoke package. And that's it. There's details of me, my training. So on Facebook, Last World First, you'll find about my training, what I get up to down in Dartmoor. We do a lot of training down in Dartmoor for basic core skills. And then when we go out to Svalbard is where we do our cold training. We do a lot of, I take a lot of pictures and things like that. So you can follow all my training, whether it's in England or whether it's when I go to Norway to train in the cold stuff. If you want to get hold of me, there's email address, phone number, and if you want to get directly in contact with Jim, the Ice Warrior himself, there's his contact details there. Any questions about it? No?
What do you do as your cold training? How do you do cold training?
So I've run you through the training quickly actually. So we start off in Dartmoor. We do a lot of training down there, getting lost along the moors, map reading, compass, weapons, first aid. First aid is a real big thing that we do. Something I enjoy massively because it's all critical crisis first aid. Because where we get out on the ice, no one's coming for us. No one's going to help us if something happens. So we're prepared for most scenarios. All our training is scenario based. So like first aid, it'll be like they'll make you run a mile and get to an opening, and it'll be like actors, like 2 or 3 actors. One's been mauled by a polar bear, one's fallen off a cliff, one's got hypothermia. And you've got to go around and treat these people, plug them, put them back together, keep them alive for as long as possible before help can come. So it's all very quite scenario based. A lot of like the campcraft, it's all scenario based, knots and lines, real simple stuff that real fundamental stuff that you need to learn. We do all that here. And then we move on to the cold stuff. So then we go out to Svalbard, a town called Longyearbyen, and that's where we kind of do core skills again, but in the cold. So for instance, now I can teach you for hours about different knots and lines and stuff, quite easy with your bare hands, but when you get out there and it's a white out, the wind's in your face and it's freezing cold and you've got big mittens on, a simple knot becomes quite difficult. So it's kind of like going for it again and some. And that'll be like the basic polar training, and then it moves into advanced polar training, which will be going on mini expeditions and just upping your training a bit more. We're doing a submersion, so you go where the sea ice, there is no sea ice and there's water, and you're getting in, just doing the submersion training. So that's where it sort of really ramps up. And once you've gone through the selection, basics, core skills, go out to Longyearbyen and do the basic polar, then advanced polar, then you're at a level where you're a competent polar explorer, and we're doing that. I've done it 4 times now, so a bit more competent. So I've got to a stage now where I'm training the new people coming through, which is great because I get to test my knowledge of what I've learned and obviously learn at the same time. So really happy with where I'm at the moment. Does that answer the question about cold stuff? Cold training? Yeah, cool.
So what's your kind of like regime at the moment then for fitness and diet and things?
For fitness, I train for a lot of events actually, like sports events. I quite like obstacle course racing, do that quite a lot, and triathlons and things. So I'm always doing lots of little things like that. with the main goal of this. So I'm always training all the way through for these little races and that, and then come February, I hope I'll be in a fit state to be able to obviously take this on. Because I don't know about you, if someone said to you in 9 months' time you've got to do something, I'll be like, I'll just wait till 7 months' time and probably train in. But yeah, I just do it constantly, always like little attainable goals, a bit like property. You aim a little goal, hit it, go to the next one and do that. So it's kind of how I train. Nutrition-wise, it's taken a major turn actually in the past year or so. So I'm completely plant-based now, just eat plant. Actually loving life, actually, to be honest. Once I worked out what I needed to take every day, it's made me feel fantastic. You know, energy levels is rather than highs and lows, it's just a constant. My recovery time is cut in half. You know, it's actually come on leaps and bounds. So yeah, it's my training really. There's no real special training other than we train by pulling tyres. Because when we're out on the ice, we pull pulks behind us with all our stuff in it, and here we drag tyres with weights in them. So practice that motion of like the nodding donkey walking on planks. So you might see me walking around the local park dragging a tyre. Might look a bit crazy, but that's what we're training to do. So, yeah.
Well done. Give him a massive round of applause. So, as you know, Kurt said he's going to be doing this next year. When he gets back, would you like to hear about his expedition? Yeah. So if you don't mind, Kurt, coming back and
Yeah, no worries.
telling us how it all went. Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Brilliant. Well done. Thank you very much.